Question for today. What's a robot favorite snack? Computer chips. Hi everyone, my name is Maciek, representing Enxoo here, and in this series of videos we cover topics related to comms industry APIfication. As featured in the previous episode, today it seems reasonable for me to talk a bit more about MEF LSO Framework. So let me try to explain LSO Framework in brief. As you already know, MEF is a communications industry association actively working to make business between different service providers in the ecosystem easy and frictionless. They do it by collecting best practices from member companies and turning them into industry standards. One of them being the so-called LSO framework. LSO stands here for Lifecycle Service Orchestration. So the LSO framework describes, first of all, different parties in the ecosystem, customers, retail service providers, and ecosystem partners. Then it describes layers, business, operational, and network, or technical or service. And finally, interface reference points where information is either being exchanged east-west between parties or north-south between layers. Now, apparently there are a lot of music lovers within the MEF community, so all these reference points are named with musical terms. So we have sonata, cantata, legato, and others. Let's take a closer look at one of them, sonata. It's an interface point specifying interactions between two service providers, buyer and seller, at the business layer. What MEF does, it tries to describe a standard way of how this interaction should happen. They describe use cases together with steps as well as detailed API message formats that should be used in bilateral communication. LSO Sonata describes business process between buyer and seller that should be followed by the buyer to purchase a service. And in this process, there are several steps. It starts from address validation, where buyer needs to confirm the address where he would like to get the service delivered is known by the seller. Then it continues with site selection. Buyer inquires seller about sites available at a particular location. After that, we continue with serviceability request, so-called POQ. Buyer asks seller, can you deliver a specific service at a given location? If yes, we continue with quote. Buyer inquires seller about the service price. And finally, it's followed by the product order, where buyer places an order. So as you can see, LSO Sonata describes the whole end-to-end negotiation process that happens between buyer and seller. Today, a lot of these interactions are still happening manually, with phone calls or emails, and MEF LSO aims to provide a guideline on how to replace these manual processes with automated, self-service API-driven flows. The industry is clearly shifting towards that direction and automated ways of working, especially when we take into account standard connectivity products that became commodity. I hope this video gave you an idea of what MEF LSO Framework is. Of course, we covered just the example of Sonata, but other LSO interfaces are quite similar. They do cover a little bit different use cases, and if you're interested to learn more, check wonderful MEF resources. In the next videos, we'll try to give you some hints on what to consider when thinking about adopting this LSO framework and LSO APIs. subscribe to our APification channel, and if you have any questions you'd like us to cover in the next videos, let us know in comments. Cheers!